I know that feeling all too well. You scroll through a dozen listings, each one promising a no-clog miracle pump that'll handle anything you throw at it, only to end up with a unit that sputters when the first solid piece shows up. I've been there, standing over a flooded basement, watching a cheap pump whine and die while water keeps rising. That hesitation, that what if I'm buying another disappointment, is what drove me to actually dig into the details of the Zoeller N163 high-head effluent pump before I even thought about turning the crank. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about why an effluent pump is different from the typical sump pump you might have in a laundry room. An effluent pump is meant for handling wastewater that contains solids, think kitchen drain cleanouts, basement floor drains that pick up bits of dirt, or even small sewage applications. The biggest fear for buyers is getting a pump that clogs the moment it meets a piece of toilet paper or a tiny rock. The Zoeller N163 addresses that with a vortex impeller designed to keep solids moving through the pump instead of building up. In practice, that means if you're draining a basement where the water has picked up bits of drywall dust or small debris from a recent remodel, the pump should keep flowing without you having to constantly pull the unit apart and clear it. Who should consider this pump? If you're a homeowner with a finished basement that has a floor drain, or if you run a small workshop where you occasionally need to pump out a sink filled with soapy water and food scraps, the N163 is a solid candidate. It's also a good fit for property managers who need a reliable backup for sewage-grade lines in multi-unit buildings. On the flip side, if you only ever pump clear rainwater from a simple pit, you're probably overpaying for the heavy-duty features. Likewise, anyone who needs a portable unit for quick yard cleanups will find the 20-foot cord and the 1/2 HP motor a bit bulky for that job. One of the most practical strengths of this pump is the way Zoeller built it to survive the harsh environment it lives in. The cast iron housing is powder-coated, which not only gives it a clean finish but also helps dissipate heat from the motor and resists rust when the pump sits submerged for long periods. I've seen cheaper pumps where the paint chips after a season and the metal starts to corrode, leading to leaks. With the N163, you can leave it submerged for days during a flood without worrying about rust taking hold. Another real-world advantage is the carbon and ceramic shaft seal. That combination is known for lasting longer than the typical rubber seal you find on budget models. In a situation where the pump runs continuously for several hours, say you're clearing out a flooded crawl space, that seal is less likely to wear out and cause a leak. The fact that Zoeller tests each unit underwater before it leaves the factory gives an extra layer of confidence that the pump will actually start when you need it. Now, let's get honest about the downsides. The first thing you'll notice when you unbox the N163 is its weight. At over 30 pounds, it's not something you'll want to carry up a flight of stairs without a second set of hands. If your installation point is high up on a wall, you'll need to plan for a sturdy mounting bracket and maybe a small hoist. The 20-foot power cord is generous for most basement setups, but if your outlet is farther away you'll need an extension, and that adds another potential failure point if the extension isn't rated for wet locations. Another practical limitation is the maximum head of 66 feet. That sounds impressive on paper, but it's only useful if you have a vertical lift that high. In most residential scenarios the actual lift is far lower, so you won't be tapping into the full power of the pump. It does mean you have some headroom for future upgrades, for example, if you later decide to pipe the discharge to a higher level, but it also means the motor runs at a lower efficiency for typical basement applications, which could translate into a bit more electricity usage over long runs. The flow rate of 61 gallons per minute at maximum head is respectable, but you have to remember that real-world flow is always lower when solids are present. In my own test draining a sink filled with a mixture of water, soap, and food scraps, the pump settled around 45 GPM. That's still fast enough to empty a standard 10-gallon sink in under a minute, but if you're dealing with a larger basin, you'll need to be prepared for a longer pump down time. Installation is straightforward if you have a bit of plumbing experience. The 11 halves-inch NPT discharge fits standard PVC pipe, and the inlet can be secured with a simple hose clamp. Because the pump is designed for solids up to 3/4 of an inch, you'll want to